Car Talk is presented by Gates Automotive, Northern Indiana's premier local owned auto dealer, specializing in Toyota, Chevy, and pre-owned vehicle sales and service. Gates Automotive has locations in South Bend, Mishawaka, Granger, and Elkhart. For more information, visit gatesautomotive.com.
Hey everyone, JC here. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Car Talk, presented by Gates Automotive, where we talk about everything car-related from buying, selling, to financing and servicing. Today's guest is born and raised and is passionate about this community here in Elkhart. During the day, you'll find him on the sales floor at our store in Elkhart, but at night, you'll find him binge-watching Star Wars with his family on the couch. I'd love to introduce you to Kolin Lamb. Kolin, thank you for joining in today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, man. Well, we're going to get into the 30-second rundown, and if you haven't seen this yet, what we do is we go through as many questions as possible as we can in 30 seconds, and you just answer them as quick as possible.
Hit me.
You ready?
Yep.
Cool. And 3, 2, 1. What's your full name?
Kolin Marcel Lamb.
Where were you born?
Elkhart, Indiana.
Where did you grow up?
Elkhart and partially Fort Wayne.
Where did you go to high school?
Elkhart Central High School.
What did you do right after high school?
Right after high school, I moved in with some buddies and worked at Kohl's and painted, did some other things, but worked at Kohl's primarily.
What was your favorite class in high school?
Math, believe it or not. I loved math.
How many kids do you have?
2.
What are their ages?
3.5 and 1.5.
When did you start at Gates?
I started at Gates December 30th of 2019.
And what is your job title here at Gates?
Sales professional. I am the senior sales executive at my store.
The senior sales executive.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Cool. There we go. We did it.
Yep. Pretty cake.
So, Kolin, let's get right into it. There's a car shortage at some places nationwide, but at our stores at Gates Automotive, the 4 stores we have a inventory that's ramping up. What kind of advice would you give to someone that's shopping for a car right now?
Well, a lot of people, and I understand wanting to shop around because there are options everywhere, but when you have one dealership that has the amount of inventory we do and the selection we do, at that point it's like, well, why not just go to one store and see or take a look at these 700 options that you could possibly have instead of going from this place to this place to this place to this city, going 2 hours away. It's just more convenient for the buyer.
I think so too.
Yeah.
You hit it right on the head. Is we have the right selection, and having over 700 vehicles in stock available now is a huge advantage.
Oh yeah.
And even then, we will sell between 400, 500, 600 a month, which means that we have another 400 coming in the pipeline, which is a huge advantage to buyers right now.
Oh yeah. Trade-ins as well, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And even if they do come in and they don't find what they're looking for, more than likely we will be able to find it, or we have something like that coming in, whether it's on trade or something that we're going after.
Yes. And of course, the ability to find unique vehicles like sports cars and stuff like that, we are able to do that too, which is huge.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Now, what is it about the Elkhart community that you love so much? I know there's a lot of stuff.
No, there is a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of Elkhart, a lot of the citizens of Elkhart that I grew up with kind of hate on Elkhart. I don't hate Elkhart at all. It's home. That's one big thing to me. I'm comfortable in Elkhart. And one thing I do like a lot is how diverse it is. There's a whole bunch of different kinds of people, and there's awesome people in Elkhart. That's probably one of the best things about it. And believe it or not, there are so I have a buddy that I went to high school with, and I'm not trying to shout him out too much, but
yeah,
he is...
What's his name?
Connor Bobet.
Shout out to Connor Bobet.
Connor Bobet. Shout out to Connor Bobet. So I went to middle school and high school with him, and that dude's been doing his own thing since high school. He was very famous on Vine, and then, yeah. He was
kidding.
Yeah, he was Vine famous.
Back when Vine was a thing?
Yeah, during high school, and then did YouTube, and of course he's doing his TikTok stuff now, but he's pretty big on YouTube, and he's verified on Twitter and Instagram and stuff. It's pretty neat.
No kidding.
Oh yeah.
So he's got a ton of followers on all his platforms.
Oh yeah. So that's just one cool thing is like, yeah, it's a very small town, but we do have big people that come out of here, not just with sports, but for content creating like him. It's pretty neat.
And there's a lot of creative people that come out of this area, whether they're in Elkhart, whether they're in Goshen, whether they're in Mishawaka or South Bend. In fact, when I lived and worked in Indianapolis, I worked at Fastenal Company at that time. This was over 10 years ago.
Nice.
And back then, they had a truck route that came up through here. And the joke was that between Elkhart, South Bend, the driver always called it the area. Exactly. And what he meant by that was there's so many different cities that when you drive through one, you don't know when you're in the next one because they're so close together. And the Elkhart area specifically is growing.
Oh, yeah.
Especially right where you guys are at.
Yes.
On Cassopolis and Elkhart with our Elkhart store.
Cassopolis, County Road 6, and I think they're finally starting to do more stuff with County Road 17, which is nice. It's kind of been blank for a while, but yeah, Cassopolis Street is growing. It's insane. Even the people that come through my store, we've been there for a little over 3 years now, which is crazy because people still pull through to this day. Like, where's the trailer? It was an MSI trailer. That's right. What it used to be.
Exactly.
And
in fact, the building you guys are in is the part of that building.
Really?
Yeah,
okay, I didn't know
it was
that.
Renovated.
Wow, that's nice. I didn't know that it was kind of modeled after an Apple store. I heard that a couple times, which is pretty neat, more modern. But yeah, no, people to this day will still pull through the lot. Like, we're looking for MSI trailers. Actually, last weekend on Saturday, someone asked that. We were like, we've got no idea. I don't know. Yeah. We're here now. That's all that matters.
How crazy. And MSI didn't even exist for, So here's what happened in that area. MSI owned your parcel, the one directly south of it. And then they also owned, I think, the property across the street where Meyer bought. And they split up where you guys are at in the parcel directly south. The one directly south of you guys, I think, was sold 6 or 7 years ago now.
For Meyer?
For the parcel directly to the south of you guys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that would have been 6 or 7 years ago. So that's crazy that people still pull in and they're looking for that.
Yeah, it's insane. It's like a little beacon too. Elkhart, like you just said, a lot of people pass through, and like last night we were closing up and someone pulled through the lot from Topeka, and I was like, what?
No kidding.
And as I'm leaving, I'm like, why are they here? You know what I mean? But I mean, they said they were in town for dinner or something like that, but either way, it's almost 8 o'clock at night and you're stopping at a little car dealership, which is nice, don't get me wrong, but I was like, wow.
And don't say little because it's not, right?
No, you're right. You're right. But some people think that because we're new and we're in Elkhart, but it's the exact opposite. You know, Gates, the name backing our Elkhart store has been around for almost 100 years. So that's just huge in general.
Exactly. And the Gates name has been known for so long.
Oh, yeah.
Just like you said, they've been around almost 100 years in this area. Their roots run deep here, around here. With their locations that used to be in South Bend, even the location that's in Mishawaka now, that's been there a very long time. The one in Granger was opened up in 2013. Elkhart, you guys were opened up in April of 2019. That's just been a huge addition to Elkhart, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
And you go to downtown Elkhart, that's way different than what it used to be. Just like you said on County Road 17, they're really starting to develop that now. And I remember growing up in the 90s, they kept saying, oh yeah, 17 is going to be the new big thing, because I lived right over there on the east side of Elkhart. 17 is going to be the new big thing. We're going to have a baseball stadium that's going to come in here and be right here, and it sat empty for a while.
I think with all of that space on if you're going towards like Goshen, you're on 17, all that space on the left-hand side, they did nothing with it, and I think now they're doing a retirement home.
They are.
Yeah,
that's
exactly
right.
A retirement home, and I was like, a mall would have been nice, or something, you know what I mean? Not a mall specifically, but something different. I've always, being born and raised in Elkhart, our movie theater has not always been the best, and a lot of people drive business to Mishawaka and South Bend instead of in Elkhart, which can sometimes hurt us as a city. So in my mindset, I was like, well, why not bring more stuff to Elkhart so that our county and the people in the city aren't leaving to spend their money and bring their business everywhere else.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's what they're working on now, is bringing a lot of cool things, even restaurants in your area. That's really changed. Jeff Howe and I were talking about that in the last episode. Oh, yeah. Was all the restaurants that are available now on County Road 6.
It's definitely a good change than having the normal stuff like regular fast food. It's definitely a nice change for sure.
Exactly. And just like we talked about too, that Meyer facility that's going to be right across the street from you guys in Cassopolis. They know that that's a big thing, and they've been working on that for a couple of years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's going to be huge for sure, especially for our store in particular.
Yeah, exactly. And it sounds like they might be changing some of the traffic flow in that area, but then, again, it's because it's growing.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
It's because it's growing, and they're bringing new things to that area. What's interesting about that movie theater, that I think that you're talking about, it used to be, so it's an AMC now.
Yes, it used to be Cinemark or something, Cinemax, something weird
Cinemark,
like that.
GKC, I think is what it was. Yeah. Something like that. So that used to be a drive-in theater at the end of the 80s into the early 90s.
That makes sense as to why there's so much space in the back, though.
Yeah, no,
that's
seriously.
pretty neat. Okay, I didn't know that.
And the guy that bought that and converted it to a inside theater is the same gentleman that owned the Elko, which is now the Lerner downtown at the time.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So that was in the early 90s.
Wow, holy crap.
Yeah, and they had a few different facilities, too.
Nice.
And I mean, there's a lot of history that I really love about talking about that stuff. Unfortunately, he's passed away now, Phil Miller, the gentleman that was overseeing that. But he even helped the renovations from, now the city of Elkhart owns the Elko, and that's when they converted into the Lerner. And they added the Crystal Ballroom. They went through and put millions of dollars into that facility because they knew that Elkhart needed that.
Was he the one that passed and left the money for the city? Do you remember? Was he the one that did? Was that him?
So he passed about 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
So the guy you're probably thinking of maybe was Art Decio.
Oh, maybe it was him.
Because Art Decio has given millions of dollars to the city of Elkhart for a long time.
I used to work at Cobblestone Martin's, and he would shop there all the time. And every time he would pull up in the pickup spot, and they would know that, all right, he's here. As soon as his groceries are done,
Decio's here.
We're going to scan him. He's good to go. We're going to load him up for him. It was just that easy. Yeah, it's pretty neat.
My aunt, my great aunt, we call her my aunt, she used to work for him back in, the 70s, the 60s. Yeah, but she said he was such a nice guy.
Oh, he's so sweet.
Yeah.
Such a nice guy. Very soft and very, very nice. He was just a really cool guy.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with your store in Elkhart, when someone comes in to buy a vehicle at Gates of Elkhart, what do they experience? What makes you guys different than other dealerships?
Well, one main thing is it's a very comfortable environment, and the selection does help, of course, but the main difference is just Gates in general. I think we've always been taught to pride ourselves in customer service and satisfaction as well.
Yeah.
So, and not just for the sale, but years down the road, which is a huge part of what we do. One main thing for me personally is I've always, went by treat people how you want to be treated.
True.
And when it comes down to buying a car, I do apply that as well. And I always make sure that my customers are comfortable, not over pressured or anything like that. So I know for a fact that's one difference that my customers have experienced for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what your managers push.
Yeah.
Whether it's Jeff Gates, shout out to Jeff.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Jeff Gates.
Joe Rodriguez, shout out to Joe. Or Steve Schaefer, shout out to Steve.
Oh, yeah.
They just do a great job at leading you guys and showing you, hey, this is the direction we want to go. This is how you treat a customer. This is how you want to help them. And at every turn, they're looking to put the customer first.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I love about your store. That's what I love about Gates Automotive. It's all about the customer.
100%.
And it's all about putting them first.
Yeah. What
are some things that you do differently now than what you did maybe when you first got in the business a couple years ago?
You'd think it'd be easy to answer that because obviously there's been so much growth individually for me, but I'm more confident. That's one main thing.
Yeah.
I always felt like I've adapted fast to new environments. Sales was a little bit different. I was at Kohl's before this. I was at Kohl's for almost 3 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, customer service. I can nail this. And then, there's a lot more interaction with one person compared to at Kohl's. You could be with someone for 2 minutes and then selling a car, it could be 4 hours or plus, a couple of days, a week maybe. So that's the main thing. And keeping up with those people too. That's one thing I've learned to try and stay on top of because that's huge. You want to make sure, like I said earlier, that you want them to know they're taken care of, not just for that 2-3 hour period and you're kicking them to the curb. You want them to know that you're there for them every step of the way. I always push that on my customers. Like, you don't just buy a car from Gates, you buy Gates as well.
I think so too. Yeah. And you hit it right on the head. It's not just about this one scenario. It's about the follow-up that exists.
Oh, yeah.
It's about caring for them long term. Not just about the service side, but years down the road when they're ready for their next vehicle, when they're ready for their kid's vehicle, when they're ready for their aunt's vehicle. They know who to go to.
Yeah.
Because you took care of them so well.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. Now, what would you say, let's flip it to the other side and say, what were some failures that you've had over the last couple of years? And it doesn't have to be car related. It can be personal. It can be in your previous jobs. What are some failures that you had and what did you learn from it?
So I wouldn't necessarily say it was a failure, but it was more of a good learning experience for me. when Nicole and I found out that she was pregnant, she took on a new degree at Ivy Tech.
Cool.
For surgical technology.
That's cool.
And she did her first year in Elkhart, which we were blessed that she was able to do that. But the second year was more hands-on training. And unfortunately, Elkhart did not have the program.
Yeah.
So we had to move to Lafayette. So we just had a kid July 15th, and we moved, I believe, the beginning of August. So we had a 3-week-old child. I think I just turned 20 and she was 19. So we're pretty young in a whole new environment. Thankfully, I did have a few family members that lived in Lafayette, so it was nice to have that there. But it was a big learning experience, man. We were on our own, didn't know many people. The Kohl's in Lafayette was way different than the Kohl's in Mishawaka. A whole bunch of drama and stuff, and I was like, good Lord, this is not for me. That was my breaking point right there. So when I transferred back, of course, you got to take what you can get,
True.
Especially with her work schedule. I had to work I worked full-time, but part-time hours.
I see.
From like 4 p.m., to closing or whatever, which was hard to find a job that you could do that with.
True.
And so it was easy for me to stay at Kohl's. I definitely got promoted there a couple times and stuff, but that was probably one of the biggest trials that we've had to go through. And then, of course, when we moved back, we were back with her parents' house, so we felt like we were starting from square one. Then we bought a house. So I would say 2019 was a big year of change for us.
Yeah.
Especially me leaving Kohl's and coming to Gates. That was a big leap for me, and it has definitely paid off, though.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I think at times you have to go through stuff that's hard.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe make wrong decisions so that you can not necessarily learn from them, but become something better.
Yeah.
And I think that what that's done is help put you in the right place to go the right direction and become the right person.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's confidence, whether it's in the right job, whether it's helping people, something you're passionate about.
Oh, yeah.
I just think that there's a lot of things that come from that.
On top of that, too, I've always tried to make it a point for not myself, but people I love to. You don't have to learn from your own mistakes. You can learn from other people's mistakes too.
Exactly.
That is one big thing I've always learned, and it's definitely paid off as well. Definitely, that's huge too. And I will say this: one thing that I've always tried to go by as well is a little term regression to the mean, and what that means is things can be bad and things can be great, but they're always going to equal out to the middle. So they're not,
right?
Exactly. They're not always going to be bad. They're not always going to, the highs are high, the lows are low, but it will equal out and things will be okay eventually.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Now, what's it like being a father and working sales hours, automotive sales hours? Because you got some late nights. You're being there at 8, sometimes 9 p.m. at night.
I'll say this. I mean, it sounds like that's late, but like I came from Kohl's, so I was working, especially the Black Friday season. I would get off around 2, 3 a.m. then.
Oh my!
Oh yeah, it was tough. And then even if it's not, a hot season, I would be there till 11 or 12. So I'm getting home earlier than I would. So that's a blessing to me.
Yeah.
On top of being a father and sales, the main thing is if it weren't for my job, I wouldn't be able to provide for my family the way I have been. So
True.
It's a give or take right there, but it's definitely more. It's more of a blessing, if anything. I don't look at it in any kind of negative way.
Exactly. And you're right. It's a balance. It's a balance between the two sides because I think one doesn't exist without the other.
Yes, true.
And even when we were preparing for this and we were trying to schedule this, Colin, and I did not take this a bad way at all, but we talked about what your off day was.
Oh, yeah.
And you said, no, I spend that with my kids.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, great. I love that.
Tuesdays
you're
with
just
the
so
kids.
Passionate about your kids and you love spending that time with them. So when you have that time off, it's dad time.
It's with them for sure.
No deviation.
Yep, nothing. And that's the cool part too is, Tuesday mornings when I'm laying with my girls and, my girlfriend goes to work and she works at a surgery center in Mishawaka. So it's not a far drive from where we live now.
And where do you guys live now?
We live in Granger.
Cool.
We live in Granger.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
So when I'm with my girls in the morning, once Nicole leaves, Remy's like, where'd mommy go? And I explain to her and she knows if I'm still there. She's like, okay, well, she's like, I get to stay with you all day. I'm like, yes, you get to stay here with me all day. Yes. It's awesome. It's awesome.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So Nicole works at a surgery center in Mishawaka?
Yes, Unity, I believe.
Unity, cool. How far's the drive for her?
Like 7 minutes, I think.
Dude, that's close.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's cool. And maybe where you're at in Granger, how far's the drive for you?
So it's about 22 minutes for me.
That's not that bad.
No, it's not too bad. It's a switch because when we lived in Elkhart, it was like an 8-minute drive for me.
Yeah.
And she worked in Goshen at the time. So it's like a 30-minute drive there. So we kind of flip-flop, but I'm just happy it's more convenient for her because she has to get up earlier than I do.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
What's it like being a father at such a young age? Because sometimes people don't become a father until 25 or 30.
I like to say I escaped being a teen father, although I was 5 days away from being 20 when Remy was born. So I will say that I was not a teen parent. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Nicole was, though. I'm just kidding.
If we're keeping score, no?
Yeah, if we're keeping score. It's definitely been a learning experience. I will say this, as we grow up, we love our parents. We might think we love someone as a significant other while we're younger, but me being this young, I got to learn a whole new kind of love when she was born, which was true. My voice just cracked. Which was definitely new to me.
That must mean something if your voice is cracking.
Oh yeah, no, something's going on. No, it was scary at first, but and I like to think of it as not that it was like it was supposed to happen, but it definitely helped Nicole and I kind of grow up a little bit more.
True.
Not that it's always a good thing to grow up so fast, but it definitely did help us, and I think I wouldn't want it to be any other way, if that makes sense.
No, I think that makes perfect sense. Yeah. Even when I became a father, the first time that I held my daughter, or even the first time we found out that she was going to be a girl, there was something real to that.
Oh, yeah.
And being able to sit there and hold your newborn daughter on the couch for what feels like a week straight and not want to do anything else.
Yep.
That's something else in life.
I agree. That was another thing too. When she was born, I was just, me and Nicole were both like, is this real? You know what I mean? Is this really our
That's
child?
The way it feels.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I will say this too. I wanted a boy before. Once I found out it was a girl, I was like, okay, we're going to do this. And then I had another girl. So I have two now,
you got two now.
And I would have two more. I love girls. No, being a girl dad is awesome. I'm so serious. I love it.
Yeah. I love that too. And even when my wife was first born, I may have said this a couple times already. When my wife was first born, I'm sorry.
When my wife was first pregnant.
When my wife was first pregnant and we went to go see if it was a boy or a girl, I was like, hey, we're going to have twins. They're both going to be girls. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
And that's what it was. I told Jeff Samalas that because he has twin girls.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah. And that's something that I wanted so bad. And the time will be right when we have more kids.
Of course.
But man, I'm just looking forward to that.
Yeah, when we had Leia was definitely something we weren't expecting. Oh, awesome. Star Wars.
Yeah.
Number 2 right there. I didn't fight too hard for that name at first, but for some reason when we were in the hospital, Nicole's like second guessing it. I'm like, you're really going to second guess this? We're in the 4th quarter right now, Nicole. We can't. No, that's not how it's going to happen.
We're at the finish line.
Yeah, we're at the finish line. It's Leia or nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when it was kind of unexpected to have her. But when we found out we were pregnant with another one and it was a girl, I was like, let's go. I was like,
let's
awesome.
go.
I was so hyped. Yeah, it was awesome.
How cool. Now, when you have your boy, is it going to be Luke?
I've been pushing for that for like 2 months. I don't think it's going to happen. We'll see. It could be a game time decision again.
Yeah,
Who knows? Probably not.
Maybe you wait till the very end to decide, right?
Yeah, probably.
How funny. What's it like being a homeowner now? So you just moved into your house in Granger. What was that transition like?
So when we came back from Lafayette, we lived at her parents' house for about, I think it was like 6 months to save up some money for a down payment on a house. So we bought a house in Elkhart, good commute to work and everything, but it was meant for, just a small family, Nicole, Remy, and I. And then we found out Leia was coming, and then the space kind of tightened. It got kind of crowded. So we were like, okay, we definitely need to make a move. And then a great thing happened. The market shot up. So we were like, okay, we definitely have some equity now.
Oh, true, because you guys were already homeowners in Elkhart at that
exactly.
point.
Yeah, so we decided to get with our mortgage professional again, and she was like, okay, let's get the things rolling. We had to take care of a couple things first, and then everything was set in motion, and we were finally able to buy a much more suited home for our family, and probably a home we're going to be in for a long time.
That's great.
Oh, yeah.
To upgrade to the right home at the right time, too.
Of course.
And the housing market has been kind of crazy recently.
Oh, my gosh.
So we bought our house 5 years ago.
Okay.
And I felt like we were at the peak of the housing market, but it just continued.
Oh, yeah.
And then here's the parallel. is the way that things are looking for the used car market. I believe it's going to continue the same way based off of data I've seen.
I agree.
And people I think they're waiting right now to buy a car. But in all seriousness, it's never been a better time to do it.
No.
Your trade has never been worth more.
No, it has not.
Same thing when you sold your house. Your house never had more equity until you sold it. The trade-in is the exact same way.
100%. That's what I'm always telling. And, you can make a Facebook post. What if I told you I could give you more for your car than what you got it for a year for?
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, it's a car salesman there. You know what I mean?
But it's true.
My friends don't think that, but it is true. You know what I mean? It is true. You bring your car in, there's a great chance I can give you more than what you paid for it. Seriously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in all seriousness, so my wife, her car, we're upgrading.
Yeah, okay.
So the car that we bought a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, we put about 30 to 40,000 miles on it. And we're going to be able to part with it for the same amount that we almost bought it for 3 or 4 years ago. It's very, very close. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy. That's just insane. To add to that too, when we found out we were having a second child, I was like, okay, it might be time to get a third row.
No, for real.
And she had a RAV4, a 2017, which she bought from me in March, a couple months after I started. And I got with Steve Schaefer after that, and I was like, hey, we're looking to do this. I love white cars. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Pearlescent, like my favorite color. I was like, well, we've got this Toyota Highlander at the Toyota store. What can you do for me on my Highlander or my RAV4?
Yeah.
And he told me, and I was like, okay. Called Nicole and told her, and she is not one to jump on buying a car, but she's like, okay, let's do it. I was like, wow, okay, we're doing it.
That was the confirmation, right?
That was the confirmation right there. I got the okay from the missus. We're good to go.
Yeah, and I think that people walk in the door and they expect something similar. They're like, oh, this is never going to happen.
Yes.
But then they see that, wow, this is going to work out.
Yeah.
We are moving up to a bigger, maybe a little bit more expensive vehicle, but your payment won't jump up that much.
Correct.
Because it's still worth more than what it was before.
The equity is there for sure. That's one of my favorite things is more than likely when it's someone you do know and you're like, I mean, I don't know what you're going to get for your car, man, but it's probably going to be around here, being as realistic as possible.
True.
And then the desk just turns you wrong and they're getting way more and you're like, holy crap, man, like you're getting hooked up. Like this is the real deal. Like this is real. And they're like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's awesome.
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy. It's
People
so
walk
crazy.
out there like, oh my gosh, how do we do that?
You just did.
Yeah, exactly. It's done now.
Yeah, done now.
Colin's making miracles happen.
I'm trying.
So one thing you go by is Kolin Lamb.
Yes.
Lamb Chop.
Lamb Chop.
Where did that come from?
That's going to be a shout out to J-Rod and Ralph.
Shout out to J-Rod.
Yes,
shout out to
J-Rod
Ralph.
and Ralph. J-Rod was calling me Lamb Bam, and Ralph would throw in Lamb Bam and Lamb Chop every once in a while. Then Joe was throwing Lamb Chop in, and for a while I was like, okay, well I could do a slogan. Lamb Chop, I'll chop the price. Lamb Bam, Bam, you're approved. It was a mouthful. I didn't like it. And it was so much to put on a flyer. I was like, I'm just going to stick with Lamb Chop. I'm going to stick with Lamb Chop. Plus, my Uncle Pat, he is very, very artistic. And he made a little cartoon character for my profile.
He made that for you?
Yeah, he made that for me.
Oh, my word. It looks great.
It looks great. I made a Facebook post, and then he messaged me, and he was like, hey, give me some details. And then I think the next day he sent me that. And I was like, good Lord. I was like, can you make Gates of Elkhart in the background? And then he made Gates of Elkhart
for real.
in the back. Yeah.
It's like a caricature of a lamb in a suit.
Exactly. Like very similar.
Like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the store is in the background.
Yeah, he's so talented. It's insane.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, what would you say if there was someone that's starting at Gates? What advice would you give to them about what the culture is like, whether it's at your store or as the automotive group as a whole?
It's just a big family at the end of the day. I try to go to every store I go to. I try to make my print, let everyone know who I am, and especially salesmen too, because of course you want to be on the manager side, but you also have to let these salesmen know that this is a great place to be, and you are also happy to be here, so they don't get infected. You know what I mean? Because you don't want someone to have a negative mindset in this business, because times are there are trialing times, but at the end of the day, you're here for a reason, and if you stick through it, it's very rewarding.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And one thing you do is you introduce yourself and you get ahead of that.
Oh yeah.
Because there can be, if you don't introduce yourself and you don't talk to other salespeople, unfortunately, you're at a different store, they're going to view you as competition in the worst.
And you don't
Not
want,
everybody does that, but
Yes.
at the worst, if that's what it is.
Yes. Not everyone does that. And you don't want someone thinking, oh, he's got a big head. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
not something you want people to see you as in this business, because I don't think many people are like that in this business or
Yeah.
at Gates at all, but that's how people see you even outside of sales. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even the customers, that's what they see sometimes.
Exactly.
Yep.
And something that I think about a lot is when you're watching a movie,
Mhm.
the reason that you like that person on screen is because of how much time they spend on the screen.
Yes.
And normally the person that's the villain or is the evil one has no screen time.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason you don't like them is because there's no screen time.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of connections with that to real life. People who don't like you most of the times don't like you because they don't know you.
They don't know you. Yes.
And
correct.
in all seriousness, that's what this entire car talk theme comes back to, is telling your story, Colin, or telling the story of Gates Automotive so that people know who we are and they get to hear that firsthand from the people that can help them.
Oh yeah. Yep.
That's exactly what this is about. And just like you were saying, you talk to other people that are at other stores so that they know who you are.
Mhm.
And that way you can have a great relationship.
Oh yeah.
That's one thing that everybody can take away from something like that, is you can create great relationships. You get to decide.
Yeah, 100%. There's no point, because there's, we'll get a new guy that comes in from a different store into Elkhart. And for example, last night we had a lot porter show up, and he was kind of like standoffish. I was like, no, man, because I was going back to service to help him with find some keys. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, I'm not going to find the keys for you. Come with me, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's a learning experience at the end of the day. And I want him to be comfortable in my store, or for him to know that he can come to me. If you're standoffish and if I'll just go backwards a little bit. If I'm new and I'm coming into a store, I'm kind of scared. I don't know anybody. Who am I going to talk to?
True.
It's very rare when someone would approach you if you're that new guy. So I like to do that. Like I said earlier, I like to treat people how I want to be treated.
Yes.
So when it comes to that, I want them to know, you are welcome here. Ask if you have any questions. We're here to help. That's how it is.
Exactly. And you treat your customers the exact same way.
100%.
You go above and beyond for them
Yeah.
as far as how you think they should be treated.
Yep.
And that's what I love about that. That's what I love about you, Colin.
Of
You're
course.
just
Thank you.
You're just, no problem. You're
I
just
try.
you're so transparent about that. And it's something that you've done a very awesome job at, is putting that customer first and letting them know and communicating with them like, hey, you are the number one priority right now.
Yep.
How can we help you? What can we do to make this happen? And what can we do to help move things forward? And that's what our entire staff does a great job at, is putting that customer first so that they know that they're number one in all situations.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And Gates has been here for so long that groundwork has been laid forever.
Yes. So real quick, one of the best things about this business is your managers have been there before.
That's true.
So when I first started, I was thinking, I'm like, well, I'm going to listen to the best salesman at my store and other stores, but at the end of the day, my managers are there for a reason. And to speak more on that, every salesman has their own little way of doing things. So if you kind of get wrapped up in that, you're going to lose your own way.
That's true.
So that I will say that, if you're new in the business, I'm not saying don't ask salesmen for advice, but make sure that you listen to your managers more than anything, because at the end of the day, each salesman has their own way of doing things, and that may not be the way your manager wants you to do it.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
There's ways that have been set before,
Yes.
and there's a reason that they were done that way.
And there's a reason why they're still doing it that way as well.
Exactly. And it all comes down to putting that customer first.
Yep.
And making everything happen for the customer. Because at the end of the day, if they're not happy, then none of it matters.
Yeah. And that's one cool thing about my store is, so we got when I first started, we just had Jeff Howe. Shout out to Jeff Howe.
Shout out to Jeff.
In the business office. And he was one person that, it was summertime when I started. And it was not summertime, but I have a lot of memories of summer times, because that's when he would actually come outside and, kind of talk to us and stuff. But he was huge in, helping me take that first step into being confident. And
that's cool.
Main thing is, when you're talking to people in the lot, you want them to feel welcome. There's no pressure, but at the end of the day, we're here to help you save time and money. And that's one thing he's always preached to me and new guys.
Yeah.
And speaking more on that with Andy. So when we got Andy's, believe it or not, a month younger than me, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And he's a business manager, so that's someone I look up to as well. It's like, dude, I would like to do that one day.
Yeah. Shout out to Andy Radford.
Shout out to Andy Radford. And that's just kind of and I don't want to make his head too big, but that's kind of inspiring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, the Jeff Gates, having Jeff Gates there as an owner, and then
shout out to Jeff Gates.
Shout out to Jeff Gates and Steve, of course, Steve
Shout to
Schaefer.
Steve, yeah.
But one main thing is like the way J-Rod and Jeff Howe are able to just kind of help you with the Gates process is insane. I'm not, I don't know how to really explain it, but when I am working a car deal or I see someone else work a car deal, it's almost like, good Lord, you know, like we have a new guy, Jose. He's been trained so well by Joe and our other managers. It's like, dude, how have you not? He's 19. I'm like, how are you not 24? You know what I mean? You're doing really good, and that goes back to our managers, you know, because the training that we have at Elkhart it's superb.
It's very thorough.
It's very thorough,
and even to the point where, hey, this is how you dress, and this is how you present yourself.
Yep.
This is how you talk to a customer. This is
Yep.
how you treat them. This is how you just care for every single step in that process.
Yep.
And we talk about working a car deal, but really it's helping a customer.
Yeah.
And it's helping that person succeed.
It's also like at the end of the day, like you want to help the customer and play their part, help play their part. But you got to listen to the desk too. Like I said earlier, when I was telling my friends, you know, it's like, you know, you're probably be around here for your car, man. Then, you know, the desk turns around and it's something completely different. You're like, wow, we're helping you out way more than I thought.
Yeah.
I just can't stress that enough. It's really a great advantage to have the managers that we have in this business, because not only have they had experience, but they've been at Gates for a long time. I think that's huge to me. That's huge.
I think so too. Yeah. And I know we haven't mentioned this, but Jeff Gates, obviously, he's part of Gates.
Yeah, we have an owner at our store, which is huge. And
exactly. And Steve Schaefer, his grandpa is the same grandpa as Jeff Gates.
Yep, exactly.
Van Gates, who is 98 now.
Awesome guy right there. Very, very sweet man.
As sweet as they come.
Oh, yeah.
How cool. Well, what would you say inspires you? If there was one thing that helped you push through hard times or difficult times, what was it that really helped you during those times?
That can be tough. So when this is just an example, I was finishing high school, and my senior year, I mean, I had senioritis when I was a sophomore. I'm serious. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong, I had pretty good grades and everything like that, but then my senior year came and it was just rough. You know, I was like, don't want to be here. And my sister's boyfriend, Damon Leader, they've been together for like 6 or 7 years, and he lived with us for forever. Since he was in high school, he lived with us. So that's like my brother. Yeah. He hated when I did not go to school or if I was late. He was always on me, and he actually, unfortunately, he passed away in an accident a couple months before I graduated, but that helped me graduate. Word. You know what I mean? Like I was like, you know, if him passing, I didn't even want to go to school anymore, but I was like, good Lord, if I don't go to school and I don't graduate, he's not going to be, you know, he's not going to be proud of me. And that's one of my main things.
Nothing.
All for nothing, man. So that was one thing that pushed me through that. And when I found out that I had gotten someone pregnant, I was like, good Lord, like not only would I want to be there for this kid, but I've got to make sure that I'm not making any mistakes, if that makes sense. So that always goes back to thinking about my sister and how strong she is. I'm like, okay, I got to push through it. I can do this for sure.
Wow. Yeah. So shout out to your sister.
Oh yeah, Kelsey.
I know he's not around, but shout out to Damon.
Shout out to Damon, of course. And then last shout out, my grandma. She's always taking great care of me.
Shout out to your grandma.
Oh yeah, shout out to my grandma. That's the woman in my heart right there.
She did put up with you, didn't she?
Oh yeah, she did. She did. She definitely steered me the right direction too.
What was it about Damon that really helped you want to push through and make that happen? What kind of guy was he?
He was just a great guy. His main focus was the people around him. Always had a smile on his face. He had a very infectious smile, and you know, speaking on his behalf, he did not go to school very much his senior year, and I saw that. You know what I mean? So he was like, dude, I don't want you to fall in the same trap that I did. He was like, get your butt up, go to school. Yes, I may have made mistakes, but I don't condone what you're doing. So that was one main thing I kept in the back of my head. And anytime there's something tough going on or there's a big thing coming up, I always look back to him and what I can do to make him proud and make sure that I'm not messing this up, if that makes sense.
I think it does big time.
Yeah.
And I mean, even when I was in high school, so my uncle passed away, my great uncle passed away when I was very young.
I'm sorry.
And one of the things that kind of pushed me through like hard times in middle school and high school was to make him proud.
Oh yeah. It's a big thing right there.
I know. And it's crazy how something as small as someone that cared for you and wanted the best for you will help you get through those hard times.
Oh, yeah. Even when they're not there. That's the crazy part. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Well, even what's cooler about this is that Damon exists through you.
Oh, yeah.
My uncle exists through me.
100%.
And there's ways that we can take that positivity and continue pushing that out so that it only continues to spread.
Yep.
Not so that they're proud, but so that we can help other people have a great life too, because that's the life that they deserve.
I agree. Yep. That's huge.
What year did you graduate high school?
2016.
Yeah, not that long ago.
Yep.
And then when was your first daughter born?
She was born July 15th of 2018, I believe.
18.
I think that sounds right. Yeah.
And you had just turned 20 at that time.
So July 20th is my birthday. So I turned 20, 5 days after she was born. That's why I kind of said,
yeah.
It wasn't
close.
I wasn't a teen father like you.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Not you, I meant Nicole. I was
Yeah.
talking about Nicole. Yeah, I'm just kidding. Giving her a hard time. Shout out to Nicole, of course.
Shout out to Nicole. Well, what else do you think that makes Gates so different than other dealerships?
I mean, you can throw that lifetime powertrain warranty out there because no one around here has that. That's just one small thing. But the main thing is, I always tell people, we've been in business nearly 100 years, and that speaks volumes because there was like a smaller dealership down the road from us, and it was like Premier Motors or something like that, some buy here, pay here place. And
oh, yeah.
I can't tell you how many people came to our spot after they had closed down. And I was like, well, I don't know what to do. I'm like, me either. I mean, unfortunately, that's an example that I use. Like, guys, if something happens a year, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road, we're still going to be here and taking care of you the way we always have been. I can't speak on that behalf for other places. That's why I have pride in speaking on that for Gates.
Yeah. So that dealership that closed down, where they were at, I always remembered that on Cassopolis as Shelton Farms and Ace Hardware.
Yeah, it had the big guy. Remember
Paul
that
Bunyan,
guy?
exactly.
Yes,
and he held the axe.
Yes, he held the axe.
And there were multiple times where people would steal the axe out of his hands.
Are you serious?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
I don't know how they did it. Like, was the axe detachable? Did they cut it off? What did they do with it?
That's
anyways?
a legit prank, though.
No, for real.
Yeah, that's what's up.
I'll have to go through and send you some information on it. But, dude, it was so
hilarious.
funny. You drive past it and be gone. You're like,
Axe
oh, my God.
Got him again.
This already happened.
Yeah. Good Lord.
It's a repeat.
No, that's great.
What are your favorite parts of Elkhart? Is it downtown? Is it the north side? Is it the east side? Is it out towards where you're at? You're in Granger now.
I would say downtown has blossomed a lot. There's a vanilla bean ice cream shop that actually have a location in Granger now. Which
they open up a new one in Granger. You're right.
Yes. So that is one thing that me and my girls love to go do, especially Nicole.
Cool.
She loves their ice cream, and we go there a lot. But there are a nice couple restaurants. There's a couple nice bars down there too, and it's grown so much. And my daughter's dance class is actually down there too. So there's just a lot in downtown Elkhart. It's a small little strip too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot for what's right there, and that's probably one of my favorite parts, as well as Walker Park. It's a nice little park. It's very small. There's a nice trail around the park as well, so it's nice. And there's a big field too, so it's not like you just have to go to a little park. There's a big field to run around, take your dogs to. Those are my two favorite spots. Of course, Walker Park is right across from my elementary school, Pinewood, and I was there.
Yeah.
Yep.
How cool.
Oh,
and just getting on the park side of it, there are so many parks in the city of Elkhart.
Yes.
Even when you look at Elkhart County as a whole, there's even more county parks.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's nuts.
Oxbow is a beautiful park, too.
Exactly.
That's closer to Dunlap. I'm pretty sure it's still Elkhart County. It's very nice.
Exactly. It is, yeah. And even in downtown Elkhart, there's so many parks that they have there.
Oh, yeah.
They've gone through and revitalized so many parts of the city.
The Elkhart Hotel is new. There's also a restaurant at the top of the hotel, which is very, very nice. And then the Lerner Theater. We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Exactly. And just like you said, not only do they have that restaurant, but on the first floor of that, there's a restaurant down there.
Yes.
There's a corner bar there too.
Yep.
They do breakfast and pastries on the one side. And in fact, in Hotel Elkhart on that very first floor where the morning breakfast pastry place is, my parents used to have a restaurant down there back in the 90s. Are you
serious?
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
And then
Are you from Elkhart?
Yes.
Really? Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then they had, so the top floor of that Hotel Elkhart, they now call it the, oh man, I'm going to say it wrong. I think it's called the Aria Room.
I think you're right.
It's something related to opera.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And that used to be called the, man, what did they call that? The Athenian Ballroom is what it was.
It's a nice name.
Yeah. And in the 90s, it needed some updating. So my mom picked the color scheme of the walls, the trim. They put floor in there, and I went up there after Hotel Elkhart opened, and they kept the same color for the drapes. I was like, hey, my mom picked that color.
Shout out to mom right there. Yeah.
Shout out to my mom.
Yeah. Those are hers.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome, though. There's still a little bit of touch of her in that room. That's pretty neat.
Exactly. And even then, not to get too off topic, but the only way that you could get the live, 15 or 20 foot Christmas tree up there at Christmas time was they would take it up the fire escape.
Are you serious?
Yes.
That's impressive.
So they would take it up this 9-story fire escape with I'm imagining some sort of pulley system, and then they would bring it in through the fire escape door so they could have it there for that entire month.
Yeah, wow. That's impressive.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is crazy.
But even since the 90s, the downtown area has changed so much. There's, just like you said, there's all those places. They went through and put in the Elkhart Aquatic Center.
Yep.
They've completely redone that entire street there on on Jackson.
Yes, on Jackson, the new Martins that they...
Yes,
there was one... it was always called the Martins on Jackson.
Yeah.
And then obviously this is a new one. It's insane. And there is it's very comparable to the Martins that's in the Concord area.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very comparable to that.
Because of how
beautiful.
updated it is.
Yeah, it's very updated. They have like the whole smokehouse thing going. It's pretty neat.
Exactly.
Nice.
They've got the smokehouse. They've got the deli. They've got fried food.
Yep.
They've got their special salad bar stuff. And they have the Starbucks baristas in there too.
The Starbucks too. That's always a hit.
Yeah, exactly. They bring so much to that area as far as walk-in traffic goes, because you could literally walk in there and eat real quick.
Yep.
And they've really changed how that traffic flow and the foot traffic is on that entire street.
Yes.
They want to call it the River District.
The River District, and they're also, if I'm correct, they're doing some new buildings by the Aquatic Center. I'm pretty sure it's in the same plaza as the Aquatic Center. Mm-hmm. And they are developing condos for the top. And if I'm correct, they're having some more shops in the bottom. So there will be new spots right there too. That's
exactly right.
Yeah, it's going to be really neat. It's going to be a completely different area in the next 10, 15 years. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I know that there's not a huge need for like the apartment complex that they're building. Well, there is, but not as big as they're building it.
Correct.
But in like 5 or 10 years, imagine that.
Exactly. So one cool thing about that apartment complex, if I'm correct, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm on the right path here. But a lot of it is for low income housing too. So for example, I've got a friend who was looking into it, and he was like, yeah, man, I don't make too much. So I'm nervous. I don't know if I'm going to get it. I'm like, what is supply? And he was like, well, it turns out I'm in the bracket to get there. And I think it was beautiful apartments, newly renovated.
Beautiful.
And it was like $800-900 a month, which is, it's kind of hefty, but in the market now, that's not too bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's completely realistic for getting something, whether it's a 2 or 3 bedroom.
Exactly.
And even if it's a 1 bedroom, I mean, in Indianapolis, I was paying $800 like 10, 12 years ago.
Was it a studio or a 1 bedroom?
1 bedroom.
Okay, nice, nice. Very nice.
But still, it was like $800, and don't take me wrong, but it wasn't the best part of town.
No, I believe it. I believe it. Yeah. I believe it.
But yeah, prices have changed so much with the rental industry in this area, so that we need to have that in the next 5 or 10 years.
Of course.
So I think that's why they're overbuilding now, is so that they have that space in 5 or 10 years.
Yep, and it makes sense. Obviously, people are still having kids, and the population is just going up. So
yeah, exactly. And even Hotel Elkhart. So that used to be Section 8 housing that was in that.
I remember that. I did know that actually. Yes.
Yeah, and it was originally a hotel back in the 20s. I want to say. Man, if I remember correctly, I'm probably going to say this wrong. I want to say that hotel was opened as a hotel in 1926 as Hotel Elkhart.
I'll take your word for it, Jordan.
If I remember correctly. Okay. And if not, that's the year the Elko was opened.
Oh, okay. So there's something there with that date, with that year.
Something happened that year in Elkhart.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
And at some point in I want to say the 80s is when or maybe the 70s is when it switched over to Section 8 housing or apartments.
Gotcha.
So they converted to that. Then they converted it back to hotel in October last year is when it finally opened.
Yep.
So it's kind of cool to see it full circle.
Because if I'm correct, it was not occupied for a decent amount of time. Honestly, years. Like I think like 5 or 6 years. It was exactly just empty.
Exactly. They moved all those people out to other areas. They opened up new Section 8 on, it would be North Main Street in Simonton. There is a old Conn-Selmer factory that they converted into apartments, which is pretty cool in my opinion.
Yep, I know what you're talking about. Yep, it's actually pretty neat.
Yeah, and in fact, my wife's, he's my grandpa because we're married. Yeah. So I call him Grandpa.
Yeah, Grandpa.
But my wife's grandpa worked at Con Selmer there for like 50 years at
Good
that same
Lord.
one. Isn't
Wow.
that crazy?
No, that is crazy. That is crazy.
And
50 years.
yeah,
Good Lord.
When he started, he was making like 40 cents an hour, I think.
40 cents an hour?
40 cents an hour.
I couldn't imagine. I wonder what he was doing on the side.
Yeah,
Just
for real.
kidding.
That was also back when his house payment was like $50 a month.
Oh, yeah.
I
That'd be
think.
nice.
He bought his house for like 12 grand.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Imagine the equity you'd have now.
I know.
That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the driveway they just put in cost more than what the house originally
No,
cost.
yeah, I was going to say, I believe it.
How crazy. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that are really going on in Elkhart, and it's really cool to see that, especially where it's great for the community, whether it's new places that are getting redone, whether it's new restaurants that are coming into this area, people that are moving to this area. And you said this earlier, people that grew up in Elkhart, they give Elkhart a bad rap sometimes.
They do, yeah.
And you always hear this thing is that Elkhart's a black hole.
Yeah.
If you get sucked in, you're never going to leave. Well, guess what? I love it.
Oh, yeah, no. I love it. It's so not only is, like I said earlier, is it there's just so many different kinds of people there, and it's a small area and it's awesome. But like you said, all of the new shops coming in, the people is one main thing. You know, I mean, I think everyone may have their issues with people in high school, but when I was growing up, I didn't have any problems with anybody. You know, I was always talking to everybody, didn't isolate myself with a certain crowd or a certain group, and that's just how my people were. We were just with everybody, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, some people might call it social butterfly.
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you want to put a label on it, but in all seriousness, it's just because you liked a wide variety of people.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you like connecting with them. Even the guy that you mentioned earlier that's basically a big influencer now.
Yeah.
I'd imagine that back then you would probably be like, I don't know where he fits in the social spectrum, but as far as what kind of group he was a part of.
Oh, he was so outgoing. No, he was just funny, really outgoing. Yeah, he was just...
That's cool.
Definitely a class clown, too.
Really?
I didn't have many classes with Connor. I mean, I managed the basketball team in 8th grade, and he played basketball. So that's kind of where me and him kind of started to become friends. But yeah, he was always like a class clown and stuff, and that translated very well for him with Vine because he just blew up from being funny. And I mean, I'm pretty sure, I don't know what his first video that blew up was, but he was literally brushing his teeth while spinning a basketball on the toothbrush. I was like, that's pretty impressive. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty, yeah.
That's cool.
No, it is pretty cool. It was funny.
And that's maybe one of the reasons that he blew up was he was talented that way too.
Exactly, yeah. That was another thing too. He was just little weird things he was good at too, just like that. That's a great example.
Yeah. And in all seriousness, Gates growing out to Elkhart was such a big thing for that community because now there is a premier local owned auto dealer that is able to provide not only sales, but financing and service with body shop access and all of that. So that if you do want to move on to your next vehicle, you know where to go.
Yeah.
And they've done a great job at building themselves in that community.
100%. And that's another thing to touch on Service Center.
True.
Not many people know this. We literally have one of the cheapest oil price changes in town. It's insane.
Isn't that crazy?
It's so crazy. My first ever oil change, I went to Jiffy Lube and paid $85.
Exactly. And here's the thing. So many other places, like, I won't mention them by name.
Oh, yeah.
But they're a car wash place in this area.
Oh, okay.
And what they do is a $23 oil change. And that's how they get people in the door.
Of course.
Well, guess what? You pull in there for the $23 oil change. Oh, guess what? It's not $23. That's for the semi-synthetic or regular oil.
Yes.
But for the full synthetic, which the majority of vehicles take nowadays, like 90% of them.
Yes.
That one, I think at that place was, how much did I pay when I wanted to test them out? Like $85. Same thing.
It's funny you say that because I had a customer who called me about she was like, my coolant's low. And I was like, well, let's talk about it more. You know, what's going on? She's like, well, I'm at dang it. She was like, well, I'm here and they're saying my coolant's low, this and that. I'm like, well, sorry, I messed that one up bad. Oh, that's funny. Don't cut that out. I'm just kidding.
I think we actually might leave that in.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Maybe we'll just bleep it out.
That's fine. Yeah, it's okay. So no, she called me. We were talking about it, and I was like, well, we'll get you into my shop. We'll look at the oil or the coolant. And I was like, but how much do you pay for your oil change? She's like, it was like $93. And I was like, it's $45 at my store, like $42.50, I think, at my store for full synthetic. I was like, don't go there again. Let me help you save some money and time.
Exactly. And they think that, so some other places, their value proposition is we will get it done in a certain amount of time or less.
Yeah.
So
or you get to stay in your car. That was just like, I like to stay in my car. I'm like, okay.
That's kind of weird to me.
Weird flex, but okay.
Weird flex, but okay. Yeah. So that's one of their value propositions is we'll get it done in this certain amount of time, or you can stay in your car. But in all seriousness, at least don't you want the technician to get in your car and reset your oil reminder? And that's just basic.
Very basic.
What about an inspection? Don't you want it inspected?
Yep.
There's so many other things there. And we don't take every single oil change on a test drive, but if they had time to do that, they would.
Of course.
And I think there's value there for the customer 100%. That sometimes they don't think about. And we will get it done express style.
Yes.
So what does that mean? It's first come, first served.
Yeah.
If you pull up and no one's there, it'll be done in the same amount of time or less.
In and out.
Exactly. And if not, then go inside and sit in a nice waiting room for a little bit.
Yep.
And
or schedule an appointment, come back later, and that way you're in and out just like you preferred to be.
Exactly. Yep. And it's done at the best price in town.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
I'm pretty sure, I don't know about the other stores, but our service center has a sheet that shows other prices at other places.
We do.
Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's smart.
Exactly. And I think that at the top of the page, it said something like, we did the price shopping for you so you didn't have to.
Exactly. Yeah. No, which is, it's smart though, too, because it's not like they're lying either. That is cold hard facts right there in front of you.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Exactly. So I think that they offer a huge value to customers.
Oh yeah.
For the oil change side and from the experience side, because it's not just someone off the street that's changing your oil. And I'm not saying that about other places, but these are trained technicians that have a process that they follow so that they do it the right way.
Yep.
And so that they follow our process of taking care of the customer. So that not only that we've been here for 96 years, but we'll be here for another 96 years.
Yep.
That's kind of the Gates way. What do you think about hybrid and electric vehicles? And how do you think that's changing the industry?
So one thing that I didn't really ever touch on before selling cars was hybrids. I was like, you know what? Yeah, it's better for the environment, but I've heard they're more expensive.
Which they are.
They are, which is, there's a reason behind that, of course.
They're also worth more when you trade it in.
Worth more when you trade it in. And if I'm correct, like, just for example, the Camrys that are hybrids get like anywhere from 42 plus in the city to almost 50 on the highway, which is insane.
Exactly. I was looking at a thread today, and there's a certain year Camry hybrid that beats out the Prius.
I bet you Andy Radford would know.
Exactly. Yes. If there's a Toyota question, ask Andy Radford.
Andy Radford, yeah.
He would know for sure. And I think it's 2022.
I believe it. We'll take it. I'll ask him later.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Andy, if you're listening to this.
Yeah. You're the Toyota guy.
Yeah, you're the Toyota guy. Shout out to Andy.
Like, that was one cool thing is, like, I'm like, good Lord. First off, I didn't really pay too much attention to miles per gallon before I sold cars. And then, I'm in the business now, and I'm like, good Lord, I'm getting like 18 or 19 in my Jeep. But
do the math.
Good. Yeah, you'd save a lot more money that way too.
Exactly.
For sure.
And even though it is more expensive for a hybrid, it's not too much more expensive.
No, it's not too much more expensive.
And I think you overcome that in fuel costs within the first, year or two. I think
reliability and longevity wise, those vehicles tend to stay around for a long time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then people are concerned about the battery cells. And that's something that you shouldn't be concerned about. That.
Yes, correct.
The technology exists. They've been doing this for 21 years now. I think, maybe I'm saying that wrong. Maybe it's 22 years. Because I think that the first Toyota Prius that came out was around 2000.
Was it 2000? I didn't know it was that. Wow, I thought it was like, 2005, 2006.
It was like a spaceship. Go back and look at it.
No, I believe that's impressive.
Exactly.
Shout out to Toyota.
Yeah, shout out to Toyota. Yeah. And we'll ask Andy later. He'll probably know.
We'll ask him. We'll ask him too.
Yeah. And in all seriousness, the technology is there now. Now for fully electric vehicles, obviously they're a little, not a bit behind, but they're still working on that market.
Yeah.
So we can have and offer fully electric vehicles from Toyota, from Chevy.
Yep.
Whether it's the RAV4 Prime, whether it's the Prius, I think it's the C or the Max.
Yeah.
It's one of those you can get in fully electric vehicle mode.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And same thing
they have a
with
Prius Prime too, don't they?
That's what it is. Prius Prime. You're exactly right.
Okay.
The Prius Prime. That's why they say Prime after the RAV4 too. So the RAV4 Prime, the Prius Prime. At Chevy, they have the Bolt. They offer a volt plug-in too. There's a few different options there for that.
Am I wrong when I say the Equinox might be getting an electric or
You're
a hybrid?
exactly
Or
right.
I don't know if it's an all-electric or a hybrid, but that would be nice.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
They're going all electric on that.
That's awesome.
Same thing with the Silverado that's already been announced. They
Okay.
announced the 2024, I believe. So it's 2 years from now is when they're starting delivery dates on those. So they announced that. And
That's awesome.
it's not a huge deviation from what you would believe the next style of the Silverado would be.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool to see that. Now, GM also committed to doing 26 new model offerings for fully electric vehicles by the year 2026.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Holy crap.
Yeah. Now, that was before
Everything happened.
Exactly. So this was like 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
So that might have changed slightly, but that's still their plan. That's why they're going through and announcing that. Same thing with the Ford, the F-150 and the Lightning with their fully electric vehicle truck.
I don't know if the Maverick's electric or not. I don't think it is. I wasn't sure. The name kind of sounds like it would be an electric vehicle, but I don't know for certain.
Yeah, exactly. And it might be.
Yeah.
At least with like the Mustang EV that they did.
Oh, yeah.
The Mach-E. That one's a 4-door vehicle that is fully electric. So even that one, they're moving towards that.
Yeah.
So I think there's so many offerings that will be out there that will be fully electric in the next couple of years.
And the Wrangler too. They have it's like
That's
it
right.
says 4xe or something on the back.
That's
and
right.
It's an electric Wrangler, which is pretty neat too.
Exactly. Even the Hummer that came out.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
Even the Hummer, yeah. And Jeff Samalas said he saw one at the mall recently.
serious?
Yeah. So that means there's owners here in the area with it.
I don't know what the make is, but I'm pretty sure there's like it's either an R or a K. I don't know for certain, but it's like an all-electric truck, and I have seen 2, and one was at the bowling alley on.
You saw a
on
Rivian?
17. That's what it was. Yes, I saw one. And my buddy even pointed it out, and I was like, I don't know if that's what it is, but it looks like it, and it was. It was pretty neat.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It must have been cool to see that.
No, it was really cool. It was impressive.
Yeah, that's awesome. And even the way that they're moving towards electric vehicles for the semi industry, that would be something cool to see.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I didn't even know that was being talked about. That's pretty neat.
Isn't that cool?
That's awesome.
Yeah, and even then, I think that the market is still catching up. So consumers, they're going to decide which direction things are going to go. But they're going to start offering this because, not just because of government regulations, but because there are needs to, I guess, help the environment.
Yes. Yep.
The internal combustion engine is still a good vehicle to buy, but the government's starting to phase that out through regulation.
Mm-hmm.
Even with there's some regulation where if you want to sell vehicles in California, you have to have at least 3% of those being electric vehicles.
Really?
I think is the way that it's worded.
Holy crap.
And I'll look that up later and let you know for sure. But I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Well, that makes sense, though. I mean, it's definitely going to help push a change if that's the case that they're trying to get across to. Then yeah, for sure.
Exactly, and they've been doing that regulation I think for 5 or 10 years now.
Oh wow! Holy crap.
Yeah, exactly. And there's just been that push for that. Now I think consumers are going to ultimately decide what direction the market will go.
Oh yeah.
And it's not just going to be boomers or Gen Xers or my generation or your generation that decide that. I think it's going to be the generations that come after that.
Yep.
But they're setting that market up for success now.
Mm.
One thing for sure that needs to be taken care of is the electric grid. So right now they say that in a neighborhood, there's only enough power draw to that neighborhood that can only support 2 or 3 electric vehicles at one time. Now that's like using very vague statistics.
Yeah, okay.
But even that part has to catch up. So there's a lot of other technology I think that will slowly change and make things better and easier just to lower cost of ownership on vehicles. Because if you look at the cost difference, obviously you're not spending money on gasoline or fuel.
Yeah.
But
Big right there.
yeah, exactly. But you're still spending money on electricity.
Mhm.
So what's the cost for electricity? It's somewhere between 7 to 12 cents a mile, I think, for certain vehicles if they are efficient.
What is
And
it for gasoline?
It's double to triple sometimes
Good
on
Lord.
fuel efficient
Okay.
vehicles.
Gotcha.
So the closest one will be a Camry hybrid that can do the 45 or 50 highway miles per gallon.
Mm-hmm.
There's also some diesel vehicles out there, passenger vehicles, that will get that 45 or 50 miles per gallon too, that are pretty close to 15 or 20 cents per mile in fuel cost. But even then with electricity, it could be lowered to 7 to 10.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah, no, that's pretty neat.
I think that's a cool direction that could go.
Yeah.
So I think ultimately consumers are going to decide, and it's also not going to change overnight. It's going to be multiple years or decades in the making.
It'll be a while.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you drive?
I have a 18 Jeep Grand Cherokee.
Nice. Yeah. And
Not too shabby.
Then what does Nicole drive?
Nicole has a 18 Highlander.
An 18 Highlander.
Yep.
What does she like about the Highlander?
She always wanted a sunroof. She's it doesn't have remote start. That's one thing that it might get added, or I might just wait until we get something else to make sure it does have that. But
true.
Her RAV was it was all-wheel drive, but her RAV was pretty base, so she likes the leather and the sunroof, and
That's cool.
One main thing, I was like, you got to have the blind spot monitors if we're gonna get you something for the kids anyway.
True.
So that's one huge nice thing that she likes. She does not like radar cruise control. She doesn't like when it stops for her. She doesn't like that. I'm like, it's a safety, it's there for a reason, but yeah, she doesn't like that.
That's interesting.
It's funny. It's silly.
So what, does she like being in control of it?
She likes to be in control. Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah. And then on your Jeep Grand Cherokee, what is your favorite thing about that vehicle?
I like the size. I'm up pretty high. It's pretty base model. I'll say that. I've never been too hot on features.
Yeah.
But one thing I do like is how high I sit up, and I do feel like I'm in somewhat of a truck. I'm not in a truck, obviously, but it is a big change compared to the Compass I was in before, and then the Cruise before
true.
that. Yeah.
So going from a Cruise to a Compass and then to a Grand Cherokee.
Yeah, because the Compass, you're like, okay, I'm a little bit higher up now. It's definitely an SUV. Then you get in the Grand Cherokee and you're like, okay, this is definitely like an SUV.
Yeah, and even the Compass, that's a nice vehicle.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We stock those regularly.
Oh yeah, those things are awesome.
Yeah,
they're really awesome.
Exactly, and even the style that they have with them, I think they're kind of unmatched for that size.
No, I agree.
For the price range.
I agree too. It's a bang for your buck all in one, and you do get a decent amount of size too. Like I was comparing a Cherokee with the Compass at one point, and a Cherokee's bigger and might have the V6 option as well, but the Compass space in the back seat in the trunk, it's spacious back there.
Yeah,
it's pretty nice. Yeah,
exactly. I can imagine with the Highlander.
Oh yeah,
if you fold that third row down, you've got all this cargo space.
So much space. Yeah.
So Colin, we talked about a lot of things today. Whether it's where you grew up, what inspires you, maybe even some car buying tips and tricks for people that are looking for a car. What would you say is the one thing that you want to become in the next couple of years? What does the future hold for you, Colin?
I would definitely love to get the opportunity to become a business manager and to take the next step in the business and move up. That would obviously be awesome. But if I end up staying on the sales floor, I just want to hit over 150 cars if that's going to be the case. I hit 145 in 2021.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And that
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. That was, I think, a little over 20 more than my previous year. So that's the main thing for me. I just want to keep improving. I don't want to regress.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably the main thing.
Yeah. How cool.
Yeah.
And then also a couple years from now, what do you want to be remembered for?
I would like to be remembered for how easygoing I am with the process, as well as how I'm not very pushy. And a lot of my dealer rater reviews or our reviews on the website and stuff, a lot of my customers mention that, and that's always a point that I try to make, like I touched on earlier. I don't want to be a very pushy guy when it comes to it. I don't like to be pushed myself. So,
yeah. Well, I think that's really clear, Colin, is you like taking care of people.
Oh, yeah.
You love putting that customer first. You don't like to push them around and have them do what you want to do.
Yeah.
You literally want to take care of them so that it's a good decision for them.
Yep.
And something that they'll love not only today, but also in the future.
Correct.
And in a segue to the Gates, I think our entire staff is doing an awesome job at that.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah, so huge shout out to you guys at Gates of Elkhart. Huge shout out to everybody at every store everywhere that's always taking care of the customer. What is it about Gates of Elkhart that really sets the pace for the culture there? Because it's a fun place to work.
One thing that sets the pace for the culture would definitely be J-Rod, our manager.
Yeah, shout out to J-Rod again.
Shout out to J-Rod, seriously, because he obviously sold cars for a while and came out the gate strong. I know that for a fact. I've heard a lot of stories about his success when he was early in the business. And just the fact that translates to his employees, that it just works. You know what I mean? It works. That's one cool thing. I would say if it wasn't for my management staff like Joe, Steve, Jeff, and Andy, of course. Yeah. Not just me, but my team wouldn't be where we are today.
I think so too. Yeah. The leadership at your store has set the pace for how you're supposed to treat the customer.
Yes.
They pour into you guys so that you can pour into your customers. Yep. So huge shout out to Joe Rodriguez,
J-Rod,
Steve Schaefer, Jeff Gates,
Jeff Howe,
yeah,
Andy Radford.
Yep. Shout out to all those guys.
All
Even on the
of them.
service side, Kevin Scheibel.
Yep, Kevin, Erica, and Tina. They're awesome.
Erica and Tina. Shout out to Kevin. Shout out to Erica. Shout out to
Shout
Tina.
out to all of them. And then Andrew, our tech. I'm pretty sure he's our.
Shout out to Andrew.
He's like the executive tech back there.
Dude, I love Andrew.
He's awesome.
Every time I walk through, he's always like, "Hey, how's it going?"
Yeah, he's such a great guy, man. Not only is the sales floor very blessed to have him, but the service department is as well. He's awesome.
Yeah, you guys just have such a great culture there.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's in sales, whether it's in service, it's just that everybody loves working with each other.
Yep.
I think is what it comes down to. And again, it's just taking care of the customer, putting them first, and doing it with a smile on your face.
Yep,
You guys
that's
have
the
done
main
an
thing.
awesome job at that.
Yep.
Cool. Well, Colin, I want to go ahead and draw this episode to a close.
Of course.
Is there anybody that you want to give a shout out to that we haven't already, that maybe you work with, someone that you are family or friends with, or even someone in the community that helped you get to where you're at today?
Well, obviously my mom. My mom has always been there for me.
Shout out to your mom.
She went to school full time, worked full time. So I've always been like, okay, I got to work hard, thanks to her, of course. And, I mean, my girlfriend, of course, she puts up with the long hours.
Yeah,
she
no
works.
kidding. Shout out to Nicole.
Yeah, shout out to Nicole. She works full time on her own and has to kind of compensate for when I'm not there, which is unfortunate. But like I said,
That's true.
It's very rewarding in the end. But yeah, she's a very strong woman. This is and I'll say it's kind of weird, but of all the women I was with before her, I'm very glad that she was the mother of my child, because she's definitely had her head on straight more than a lot of them.
Yeah, your voice cracked again, so that probably means something,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, every time we
Getting
talk about
emotional,
her,
right?
yeah, it's definitely Nicole. Something's going on there.
Is that a fear thing or a love thing? Maybe both.
Yeah, I was gonna say definitely both. Maybe more fear than anything.
How funny.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, Colin, thank you so much for coming on today and being a part of this episode and making this happen. I had a great time doing this, and I hope everybody has a great time listening to this.
Of course. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Man. I'd love to have you on again sometime.
Very soon.
Awesome. Very soon, right? Cool. Thanks, Colin.
Thanks, man.
Yep. Hey, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Car Talk, presented by Gates Automotive, where we talk about everything car-related, from buying to selling and financing and servicing. Huge shout out to Kolin Lamb for coming on this episode and making this happen. And huge thank you to all of our viewers for listening to this. We will see you on the next episode.